Let's have a look at the last part of the process, rendering the video at the end. So when you make an edit, it's like putting all the pieces together. Like think of a printing press, right? You got all these little letters that you're putting together to make the book, page by page, scene by scene. And then you put ink on it and you press it, and now you have something that cannot be changed. So paper with printed words on it. So rendering, or pressing the video at the end, is the process of taking all these decisions you've made and making a final file that can't be changed, but it's usually smaller, depending, and can be shared. So that's rendering. And there's a couple of ways you can do it in Resolve. Now, the simplest way, although not always the best way, is to hit Quick Export up here. Quick Export will render your entire timeline, but let's go back a second here. This timeline has some stuff at the end. Does it know that that space in the middle isn't supposed to be there? It might, but it probably doesn't. So just like when you're deciding which parts of the footage to use, and you use your in and out ports to mark what you want and drag it down to the timeline, well, I'm going to use I to mark the beginning and O to mark the end. Now I know that is the part that's going to be rendered. Go to Quick Export and you can choose any of these presets. Since I'm usually delivering to YouTube, YouTube is the preset I would use. Now, you don't have to sign in. You don't have to directly upload this to YouTube at all. You could just export it and it'll save as a file on your computer. I would like to look at the deliver page, though, which has a few more options that you're probably going to want to know about. So it's the last in the line here. We go to our deliver page, and as you can see, just like every other of the different pages, it has saved the in and out points that I marked earlier. Same timeline as before. And in fact, sometimes if you're on the deliver page, you're like, why can't I make edits? It's because you're on the deliver page and you can't actually edit here. It's just for delivery. Now, up in the top here, you have a variety of presets. And as you can see, the first ones are the same ones that we had in the quick export. If you look at the YouTube preset here, you can give it a name. Render. I usually put numbers after it, sequential, so I know which one to use, the last one. And you can tell it where to put it, and there's a bunch of options here. Most of the time, I leave these options alone. One of the ones that you're going to want to know about is this normalize audio. And normalize means if your audio only gets up to negative 15 dB, and the normal maximum volume is negative 6, it will turn the volume up so your loudest point hits negative 6, and it does no further processing. It just adjusts the volume to make it normal. That's pretty handy if you haven't done a bunch of work in the Fairlight page or in the mixer to make sure that your levels are correct. If you have done even less work to make sure your levels are correct, you might optimize to standard. And what that'll do is go through and do some of that work for you. It'll make the loud parts a little quieter, the quieter parts a little louder, to the standard of whatever. In this case, since it's the YouTube standard, it'll try to make your audio the right volume for YouTube standards. But if we go to a different preset here, the other presets have a lot more options. You see that option actually disappears, not on the front page at all. But if you go into advanced settings, it's not there either. Oh my gosh, there's so many different settings. Well, up here at the top, audio and audio normalization. You again have the optimized to a standard, and if you want, you can optimize it to Netflix's standard. You can optimize it to Disney's stereo standard. You can see how handy that is to know about. Most of the time, you're not going to necessarily be using this, but if you ever get to the point where the organization that you're working with has a 30-second spot on TV, you're going to want to know what the standards are for that TV station and deliver to them what they need. They may be able to make a YouTube preset video work, maybe, but they might want something completely different, in which case you're going to want to ask them what they need and find out how to do it here in the deliver page. That's what the deliver page is for. You can do anything from, TikToks to surround sound IMAX films or more. And I actually use this normalize and optimize fairly frequently when I'm doing quick projects. Anyway, let's finish the process here. I'm going to set this to normalize because I have done some of the audio work to make this about right. And we'll go ahead and add it to the render queue, and then it shows up as a job over here. Then you hit render all, or if you have a list, you can render one. Now, why would you have render all? Why would that happen? Let's say you also want to, let's make a ProRes master. So this is our master file. And yeah, these are some pretty, yeah, we'll normalize and we'll optimize the audio for that. Sure. Now we can add that to the queue as well. It's going to take forever doing these two different jobs, but you can just select one to render one, or make sure none of them are selected, and you can then render all. Set it to go make dinner, come back and see how it's doing when you're done eating. That's a look at the render page and the final process of finishing a video. After you've shot it and edited it and done all the effects and titles and subtitles and whatnot, the last part of the process is rendering it so that you have a final file that can no longer be changed but can be delivered. That's the deliver page, oddly enough. Thanks for coming along. We'll see you next time.